and it was built by a wealthy Russian man, kind of like as his fantasy retirement home. He built it in the style of a British romantic castle. It was a very interesting place. And then it was destroyed on the inside by the Soviets. So it's actually, on the outside it looks like very like fancy and wealthy, but it's actually quite austere inside. There's a lot of work, that needs to be done. And the devotees there, they're like these like hard-working, like Ukrainian, Russian devotees, like Jai Shri Gurudev. Like literally, one of the girls there, we watched her break the ice on the river and then jump in for a bath. Like those are the kind of devotees.
Ukrainian woman.
Village, like she comes from a village, Ukrainian village, and like this is like these are the devotees.
Famous little meme of like a bunch of American military men carrying this log, and they're all like struggling, and then there's a picture of this like Russian, Ukrainian woman from a village with one log on her shoulder walking on the road.
That's exactly it. We have to show her that. No. This is she does that for fun. That's like fun for her. She was excited about doing that,
Yeah, we all had to take a turn.
Yeah, no, it's not that austere. No.
She did it.
You were going to go just for that, weren't you?
But it's a really cool project. And there's cows nearby, and they get raw milk from these cows, and it's like 3 hours outside of the city. So very, very it's a wonderful place where the devotees can go and just focus, because in the city there's all these projects going on with yoga and art and the dome and everything, so it's nice. They can have a refuge where they can go and just have exclusive Krishna consciousness. So we're moved around different places in Ukraine. And very, very inspiring. And then Wednesday I'll go to Spain. Be with Haryananda. You went there, right? You were there, yeah. I haven't met him yet, but he's super enthusiastic. I mean, he wanted me there. He wanted me to stay for 1 or 2 months, I don't know what I would do there for 1 or 2 months. So we compromised on 3 weeks, But he's very excited. He already has a program at a yoga studio for Nityananda Prabhu's appearance day scheduled. So that'll be very nice. Now we're here with our devotees, beautiful community here in London. Today is the divine appearance day of Advaita Acharya. So a very special day for us. Advaita Acharya has the special position and in Gaura Lila, and particularly he's glorified as being the person who performed the function of inviting Mahaprabhu. Actually, the Lord, he doesn't need any invitation, and he has his own desire to come, but there's often this arrangement, circumstance where there's a specific call, request, it's part of the Leela. There will be some special request that there's some necessity, please come, Also before Krishna appears and the Devas, they get together and they pray, the Asuras are creating so much disturbance, please come, please save us, So it dramatizes things, or makes everything more, more heart churning, and like Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he made that wonderful comment that with the highest transcendental vision, we will see that the real purpose for the existence of the material world is so that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can come to perform his pastimes of saving the fallen souls. So this is like a wonderful pastime for him. That we're all like suffering in Maya, and then he comes and he saves us. How can you be a hero unless somebody needs rescuing? So our suffering has our confusion, our bewilderment, it all has some divine purpose, in the big picture of things, So we hear Advaita Acharya, he's observing, the situation within Bengal and Navadvip and this very materialistic society, and there's no consciousness of the idea of real devotion, pure devotion, worshiping the Lord and practicing spiritual life for the sake of the Lord's satisfaction, not our own. There was hardly any conception of that, within the general society. Anya bilashita shanyam jnana karma janaritam anukulyena krishna anushilanam bhaktir uttama. This verse of Srila Rupa Goswami defining what is pure devotion, that which is free from anya bilash, our random, whimsical, selfish desires, free from the attempts of karma, which here refers to systematically practicing spiritual activity, but for the purpose of acquiring punya, or, ultimately material gain. And then gyan, knowledge, what here means the attempt for liberation. So this is the definition of pure devotion, the highest type of devotion, which is free from all of these things. And Krishna what is it? Anya bilashi dashanyam jnana karma janavijam anukulyena Krishna anushilam, which is favorable to Krishna's interest. So this is the conception of pure devotion. That which is done, not, this is like for many persons, this is like a foreign idea, that you'll perform spiritual activity for the sake of the Lord, for God, there always has to, there's this idea that there has to be something in it for me, I met this Indian gentleman once on an airplane, and he's he was involved with many different groups. He was involved with ISKCON a little bit, and then he knew all these other people, and he was in the family line of Krishna's guru. Sandeep, I'm not joking, Sandeepani Muni, the line of Sandeepani Muni. So of course you can't tell him anything. What are you going to say to someone who's in the family line of Krishna's guru? He won't hear anything. He already knows everything. And he had his card. Dandavad. He had his card saying he was a Brahmin, this kind of a person, within 10 minutes of meeting him, that he's but it was really funny because we were having this discussion, and he was sharing just different groups, different spiritual groups and what they do, and he was talking about this one man who he could put anyone into a trance, this was a really amazing thing. He could put you into a trance if you sat in front of him for 10 minutes, and telling me all these cool things that these cool gurus could do, And then I was trying to explain like what we're about, and like we're in the line of pure devotion. We're interested in seva. We want to serve the Lord. We're not interested in like gaining something for ourselves, whether it's some like cool, subtle experience or wealth of this world or something in the afterlife. We're just interested in selfless service to the Lord and to the Vaishnavas, And then, and then he said to me, he said, well, you're not going to get many people with that. Where was this?
Here in the UK.
At Green Street?
No,
oh, in your house.
Yeah. And then after a bit of a conversation about what it means for devotional service, he just sort of went, well, that's a bit extreme, isn't it? And my mother was like, okay, next time they come, you can answer the door.
We gotta find a different angle.
This is scary to people. But for us, this is like normal and wonderful. Like please, like sign me up, This is like an exciting thing,
The condition of the soul to be servants.
Yes. This is normal. You guys are abnormal. But actually, this the title for the talk for today, the relief of surrender, Like if you're actually like you have some consciousness and you're awake, you feel of relief, like to give up your own endeavor, to give up your self-centered existence, and to embrace being, an insignificant drop in the ocean of nectar, at the feet of Guru and Gauranga. It is a wonderful thing. It is a relief. It takes a certain level of sukriti to come to the point of being exhausted, like feeling this is actually exhausting, like this competition. And this pressure, I have to do more, I have to have more, or I always have to think about myself, I have to take care of my own, ego and situation and position and acquirements and all of these things. There gets a point, if you have the sukriti, when you realize this is actually exhausting. This is exhausting, I just want to take shelter, I'm tired, of working for myself, and my own ego and my own whatever, I'm tired of that. And I realize I have no capacity. I have very little capacity. I think, I thought I could do so many things, but actually anything I can do, it's only by the Lord's will anyway, by His energy and by His grant that anything can happen anyway. So let me give up living this pretense, and just accept, I don't want to live in denial anymore. I just want to accept and embrace this wonderful truth, that I'm an insignificant servant, but that's okay, that's a wonderful thing, that's a joyful thing.
There was a darshan I was reading yesterday from Acharya, and someone was asking him some question, or he was telling a story. Someone was asking about some mantra to perform something, and they said, oh, I don't know anything. And he said, this is the mantra. We do not know anything.
Jai, that's wonderful. Really, that's the real starting point. I don't know anything, Please tell me, please show me, Yane Prayasham. This Mahaprabhu accepted as the starting point of real devotion. Yane Prayasham Udapashyanamanta Eva. to give up one's own endeavor within this world, to give up one's own calculation, to give up one's own, misconceived idea of things, and to approach in this open spirit. This is the real starting point, to take shelter of the people who do know, which is common sense, Take shelter of the people who do know, and to proceed according to their guidelines. And actually, when we embrace that type of life, then, there's this beautiful song, Atma Nivedam, which discusses this joy that comes, from this mood of surrender. Because when we're living in this self-centered mode of existence, we must necessarily be in a state of anxiety, because it's us competing against the world. It's us competing against so many other. Whether we're consciously or subconsciously aware of that, that's really the real nature of things. Because we're trying to establish our own self-centered existence, but so are 8 billion and something other people. So there has to be this clashing. We're on the, consciously or subconsciously, we're in this defense mode all the time. Like people want to attack me. People don't want to acknowledge my superiority. People don't want to acknowledge how important I am. People don't want to acknowledge, that I am the center of the universe. There was that man, I think it was in Australia, some very funny man who, he had so many different ideas, but he had some appreciation for Srila Prabhupada, and he attended some talk of Srila Prabhupada, and at the end he wore some funny outfit, I think he had a cape or something. And then at the end of Srila Prabhupada's talk, maybe people were invited to ask questions, and the man said, I have to tell all of you, and soon everyone will know, but I'm actually God. Something like this, I'm actually God, And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, that is what everybody thinks, Don't worry, that's normal. This isn't news. So we're actually there's this anxiety within us, because we're not, we're afraid that what we have conceived to be our needs at present, they're not going to be fulfilled or honored or acknowledged by others. And so there's this fear, there's this defensive mentality. Consciously or subconsciously, on some level, it's there. In Bhagavatam, there's one verse which describes how the soul, this transformation of the soul takes place when it enters the material energy. Bhayam dvitiya viniveshata syat. There's a Bhayam dvitiya viniveshata syat. Isharape tasya viparyo smriti. Is saying how the first line is very significant. Bhayam dvitiya, bhai or boy in Bengal, the fear, right? So fear arises through dvitiya vinivesh. Means the dvitiya means second. So fear arises from perceiving something second. Because there's actually one interest, there is Krishna's interest, which is synonymous with the interest of the whole. So there's actually there's one current of reality. There's one lila. Sometimes, and and this is something that bothers me a little bit, but this word lila, we hear, not so much, but sometimes I hear devotees use these words a little loosely, so they'll talk about, this devotee's leela with that devotee, and we reserve that for the higher devotees and the Lord. We don't want to bring it down to our own relationship issues. But there's one place where Srila Maharaj says very strongly, like, there's one Leela. Like, we all want to have our Leela, and if you go to Hollywood, or the Hollywood industry, they're producing millions of Leelas, year by year. There's so many Leelas, Bollywood or Hollywood or all the other woods, There's so many Leelas that are being, churned out, And then everyone's creating their own Leelas, But actually, there's one Leela, that's Krishna's Leela. And all of these other things, they're projections. They're impositions on the environment. They're artificial impositions. And they're very temporary. It's like a puff of smoke because they don't have any real foundation. They can have their 5 minutes of glory, just like we can all have our 5 minutes of glory. But really, in the big scale of things, it's like one little bubble bursting in the ocean. It has no real significance because there's no foundation there. So there's actually one Leela. That's Krishna's Leela. And really, and our duty and our necessity and our nature as jiva souls is to tune in to that one Leela. And that's the flute sound of Krishna. It's calling everyone and adjusting everyone and helping everyone to find their place within that Leela. So misconception comes about and confusion and bewilderment under the influence of Maya. That starts when we decide we want to perceive another Leela. We want to perceive another current. That's where the trouble starts. We perceive something second. There's the one universal and central interest, but we're not interested because we're not God there. We're not the master there. So we're going to make up our little story here, little subplot, where we can be in the center. And so then we're conceiving and we're perceiving the environment with all these other filters. And so then this first line is saying that's the origin of fear. That's where fear arises. Because then that's where it becomes you separating yourself from this wonderful harmonious whole, this organic whole. You're separating yourself from that. And you're putting yourself at odds with the environment. You're putting yourself, in an awkwardly situated position where you're necessarily going to clash and be at odds with so many other units and the fundamental flow of the environment. Yeah, it's like swimming against the current. Yeah, that is a good example. Krishna consciousness is a current, and this is also what surrender is. That you're moving with the current instead of, going upstream or going against the current. So it's like there's that, we hear of these two ideas of Sharanagati that are discussed in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, the surrender like a baby cat and like a monkey, right? That the baby cat, the kitten, is carried in the mouth of the mother, right? So it's like getting an easy ride. And then the monkey has to hold on tight to the belly of the mother. So there are these two different ideas of Sharanagati. One that you have to work very hard to enter that, and then the other that you just relax, and allow yourself to be carried, to be moved by that. And so there's some debate about this. And Srila Maharaj, she harmonized this very nicely, saying that in the beginning, when we make that, this is why it's so scary for people, because we're so deeply situated in this awkward position, So in the beginning, it's difficult. It's like understanding that an eclipse is a time of great danger, that there's some risk that the planets will all collide. And so for that reason, there's a tradition to congregate at a holy place and to chant the names of God, like for some protection, to ensure, something positive in your afterlife, in your next life. So Mahaprabhu chose to appear at the time of an eclipse, and so everyone was at the gathering at the Ganges and chanting the names of Hari, like for their own protection. So they were like doing it really with some more like stereotyped idea, materialistic idea, but at the same time they're chanting the holy names, But like this was the idea of the time, like on special occasions for some particular purpose, then you'll chant the holy names. But the idea of like the culture of pure devotion and developing, a loving relationship with the Lord, this was almost completely absent. So Advaita Acharya, he's observing this in society. And also Navadvip in particular, as we were mentioning the other day, it was a place of great wealth and learning. It was actually, I think it was maybe a few hundred years before Mahaprabhu, Navadvip had been some kind of a capital, actually, for one of the Muslim rulers. It was a capital. But in any case, it was like a center within India, a center of learning, and there was great wealth amongst the society. So it was like a case of many people having more money than they know what to do with, and spending it on very frivolous things. Srila Sridhar Maharaj mentions how there were persons who would put on elaborate wedding ceremonies for cats and dogs, like very silly things like this, So Advaita Acharya, he's observing this situation within society, and his heart is weeping, because the pure devotees, they can't tolerate, to see people living in ignorance. Srila Sanatana Goswami, he's described as para dukkha dukhi, his only sorrow, kripambu dir ya para dukkha dukhi. He is like an ocean of mercy, and his only sorrow is to see the sorrow of others. So Advaita Acharya was in that mood, he was weeping to see the condition of society. People are living without knowing who they are, what their real purpose of life is, what is the real purpose of this world, living in this state of ignorance, wasting their lives away. So Advaita Acharya was heartbroken to observe this, and so he made special worship to his Shalagram Shila, praying, please descend, please descend. Please come, please help these people. Here we have the call. See, Balaram's like tuned in. Like he knows what's going on. He's calling out. Please come. So Advaita Acharya made special worship with tulasi leaf and Ganges water. It's mentioned. And similarly, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, 400 years later, he's observing that again, so much degradation has come. And so he's praying to the Lord, please send one of your own men. Please send someone. I cannot do this. I don't have that capacity. I don't have that type of empowerment. Please, you send someone. So Advaita Acharya, he made that special prayer And as we said, the Lord is independent. He comes for his own purpose. But Advaita Acharya like performed that like official function, you could say, of like inviting the Lord, requesting him to come. And so he has that, that special honor is given to Advaita Acharya, the one who caused the Lord to descend to this world. And there's one place where Mahaprabhu, I think Mahaprabhu says it to Achyutananda, who's like the Advaita Acharya had 6 sons, right? And then Achyutananda, he's the one who we hear most about, most prominent. He made that comment when he heard his father Advaita Acharya Advaita Acharya, he made that comment. Someone was asking Advaita Acharya, who's Mahaprabhu's guru? And Advaita Acharya told, I think he mentioned the sannyas guru of Mahaprabhu. Who is? I can't remember right now. Anyone remember? Keshava Bharati. Yes, Keshava Bharati. Yes. Ishwara Puri was his Nam guru, and then Keshava Bharati was his sannyas guru. So I think he mentioned Keshava Bharati. Somebody asked Advaita Acharya. Or maybe he said Ishwara Puri, I don't remember. But in any case, someone asked who was Mahaprabhu's guru, and Advaita Acharya answered, mentioning one of his gurus. But Achyutananda, he could not tolerate this. Achyutananda, 5-year-old boy at the time, and he overheard his father say this, and he got very angry. Mahaprabhu is the guru of the 3 worlds. How can you say that he has a guru? The whole world, we will all be destroyed by this type of thinking. How can you say this, Father? And Advaita Acharya, he was very happy. He was a proud father in that moment. But I think, I remember there's one occasion where Mahaprabhu mentions and I think it must have been Achyutananda, to one of the sons of Advaita, that you are my brother, because I came here by the call of Advaita Acharya, so you were like my brother. So Advaita Acharya has this very dignified position in Mahaprabhu's Leela, and of course he appears as a senior to Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu also gives him special respect, because of that. The Lord, he comes with his whole entourage, and whenever the Lord comes, first he'll send, a few persons before him, like to start preparing the ground. And so Advaita Acharya is one of those, and he always has this position of special respect. He was like the head of the Vaishnavas. He has a very interesting position, actually, Advaita Acharya, because with other associates of Mahaprabhu, they have, we can recognize and appreciate them as pure devotees, and they're celebrated within the Vaishnava section, but they're not necessarily recognized within the general society. So like Haridas Thakur, Mahaprabhu appointed him, as we were mentioning the other day. Haridas Thakur is the Namacharya. He appears before Mahaprabhu. He starts spreading the holy name before Mahaprabhu is born. So Haridas Thakur, he has very important position in Mahaprabhu's, preaching group. Mahaprabhu appoints Haridas and Nityananda as his 2 generals. When Mahaprabhu begins his Sankirtan movement in Navadvip, in Nadia, then he calls for Haridas and Nityananda, and he sends them out, to begin this work. So Haridas has this very like major position in the society of the Vaishnavas, but at the same time, he comes from a Muslim background, and so the general, Hindu society, they who have prejudice, they don't honor him, they don't recognize him, So and then also like with Rup and Sanatan, Rup Sanatan, they come from high Brahmin families, but they were employed by the Muslim government, so they're also nobodies in the Hindu society. But for Mahaprabhu, he appointed them as the head of his sampradaya. So for the Vaishnavas, they're very important, but the general society don't really recognize them. And even Nityananda Prabhu, he's very eccentric. He's not following, in the normal behavior of society. So there's people who are critical of Nityananda Prabhu, unfortunately. And that's why in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das Thakur is kind of like on the defense, like trying to establish and defend the dignity of Nityananda Prabhu, because not everybody appreciates him. But then Advaita Acharya, he has this very interesting position, because he's the most senior within the Vaishnava group, and he's also a high-class Brahmin, so he's also highly honored by the general Hindu society. So he's kind of like this like crossover. He's like spanning two worlds, so to speak. And there's this wonderful incident when Advaita Acharya, he's holding some kind of Shraddha ceremony for some ancestors, and Advaita, and it's also nice to remember, Advaita and Haridas, they have this special friendship. And Advaita Acharya, he doesn't care about the prejudice of society. He's very good friends with Haridas Thakur, who's a Muslim, comes from a Muslim family. So there's this one incident when Advaita Acharya is holding some Shraddha ceremony, some sacrifice for ancestors, and then there's this, and there's so many Brahmins present who are participating, and Advaita Acharya is like the head of this group, and then there's this point where there's this plate of special prasadam, and it's meant to go to the most honored guest, and traditionally it would go to a Brahmin. And Haridas Thakur, because for some period Haridas was living nearby Advaita Acharya in Shantipur. And so Haridas, he's like at some distance away. He's always extremely humble, Haridas Thakur, doesn't like to disturb people, and people who might be disturbed by him, So he's like at a great distance away. And then Advaita Acharya, he has this like special, the Shraddha Patra, I think it's called, special plate of prasadam. It's meant to go to the most distinguished guest. And Advaita Acharya like walks past all these Brahmins and he gives it to Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur, he's so like humble, and at first he's like, no, I can't take this. You have to give this to one of the Brahmins, and this will destroy the society. And Advaita Acharya's like, don't worry, I'll take care of that, And he says, something like, thousands of Brahmins, they will be fulfilled by you taking this plate of prasadam, something like that. So they have this sweet relationship, and Advaita Acharya's like, between these two worlds, And they're also together when, at the time of Mahaprabhu's appearance, Advaita Acharya and Haridas Thakur are together, and they both feel like something's happening, They feel something of very great significance is taking place, and they begin to feel this great joy within their heart. And maybe Haridas starts dancing. I think one of them starts dancing, and the other one is saying, I'm feeling this great joy in my heart, And So they're together at that moment and feeling this, change in the atmosphere when Mahaprabhu is appearing. And then Advaita Acharya also, he was the head of the Vaishnavas in that area, and so, and he had two residences. He had a residence in Shantipur, and then he also had a residence in Navadvip. And so when he was in Navadvip, sorry, I need a tissue. Thank you, Padita. When he's in Navadvip, then you'll see, and when we go, his house is very close to Mahaprabhu's birthplace. So they're very close. And so Advaita Acharya used to hold these gatherings there in his home, and Vaishnavas would gather there to hear from him. And so Mahaprabhu's elder brother Vishwarup, he used to go there. He must have been a teenager when Mahaprabhu was like a little boy, like Balaram. And it's mentioned how Vishwarup would like regularly go there and participate in those meetings, and sometimes little Nimai, baby Nimai, he would like go over like sometimes to like bring him back, like, so he would also as like a little toddler, Mahaprabhu would also like be present sometimes in those meetings. Thank you. Excuse me. And then there's also that incident when, because Vishwarup, he's influenced by Advaita Acharya's preaching, and so Vishwarup, he becomes indifferent to worldly life, and his parents, Jagannath Mishra and Chachi Mata, they want to marry him, when he comes of age. But when they tell him that you're, we want you to get married, then his response is to leave home. He goes and takes sannyas, and so this is Leela. If we're going to use the word Leela, this is Leela. So Chachi Mata, she's holding like, little grudge. Advaita Acharya, he influenced my boy and made him, he lost his interest in worldly life, and he left us. And so she's holding on to this in her mind about Advaita Acharya. This is her maternal affection, And then she's worried about, Mahaprabhu, same thing's going to happen. And then there's this incident. It's described in Chaitanya Bhagavat when Mahaprabhu knows what his mother is thinking, and so he uses her, which is significant, like his own mother, he like sacrifices his own mother here to demonstrate this point, the importance of avoiding Vaishnava aparad, offense to the Vaishnava. And so there's like this meeting, maybe at the house of Srivas Thakur, maybe. And Mahaprabhu announces, that his mother has made an offense to Advaita Acharya, and I think Advaita Acharya, maybe he wasn't there, and somebody went in. I can't remember exactly how it all took place, but maybe someone else can remember. But anyhow, Advaita Acharya, like when he heard this, that Chachi Mata was being told that, I think what happened is he wasn't present, but someone went and told him what was happening, and so he came there, and he was horrified, like that Chachi Mata was being accused of being offensive towards him. He was horrified to hear that, because Chachi Mata is so worshipable to him, And so he started glorifying Chachi Mata. And this is so beautiful, like completely the opposite to the materialistic mentality, oh, someone's attacking me, then I'm going to attack them, Rather, he was horrified that she, who was so worshipable to him, was being accused of this and humiliated like this. And so he began glorifying her in this assembly. And then, it also wasn't just like he was doing it like to be diplomatic, like he entered a state of ecstasy, like thinking about her glories, and so he fainted. And then when he fainted, then Shachimata took the opportunity to take his foot dust to rectify, herself of her, so-called offense. And so many sweet pastimes with Advaita Acharya. There's also that pastime when because he has this position, like senior position, then Mahaprabhu always, maybe very few exceptions, he's always honoring his seniors. He shows a very beautiful example of following the Vaishnava etiquette, like again and again, like some situations, it's like, how is he tolerating that? Like Advaita, like to the extent that Sarvabhauma is telling him for 7 days Shankaracharya's interpretation of the Vedanta. Like I remind myself of that sometimes. Like for 7 days, Mahaprabhu. And why? Because Sarvabhauma was in the position of a senior, and Sarvabhauma was instructing him with some paternal affection. So Mahaprabhu was taking it in that way and just tolerating. Oh, he thinks I need to know this right now, so I'm going to accept that, And then also with Ramchandra Puri, also Ramchandra Puri is he's offensive to Mahaprabhu. Like Sarvabhauma, at least, like his intention was sweet, his intention was good. He sincerely wanted to help Mahaprabhu. But in the case of Ramchandra Puri, he's like directly offensive to Mahaprabhu. But Mahaprabhu, still, he honored that because Ramchandra Puri was in the position of his uncle Guru. He was the godbrother of his Guru, Ishvara Puri. So Mahaprabhu tolerates that and honors him. It's like it's painful. The devotees are seeing this and they're getting upset, but they can't do anything because Mahaprabhu is like determined, to honor him because of the position that he has. Of course, it also mentions in Chaitanya Charitamrita there that sometimes Mahaprabhu would honor him, and sometimes Mahaprabhu was completely indifferent to him and treated him like straw. It also mentions that. But generally, he was in this mood of giving him great respect. So then also with Advaita Acharya, because Advaita Acharya is in this position of seniority, then Mahaprabhu is always giving him that kind of honor. And then on the other hand, Advaita Acharya, he doesn't like this, This is disturbing for him, because he's thinking of Mahaprabhu as his master, as his Lord. He doesn't want to receive honor from like your master, your guru, your Lord. That's very uncomfortable. Like, what are you doing? This is humiliating, actually, So this is bothering him to such an extent that at one point he decides, he's like thinking like, how can I stop all of this awe and reverence? And so he's calculating, what can I do to make Mahaprabhu angry with me? and so then he starts preaching some impersonal conception for some time. And then Mahaprabhu hears about that. And he goes running there. And I think at that time Advaita Acharya is in Shantipur. And I think it mentions that Mahaprabhu goes swimming across the Ganges. And he goes in this like fit of anger. And he starts beating Advaita Acharya. He's so upset, So he's beating Advaita Acharya, and Advaita Acharya is in joy, in this like extreme ecstasy. Like, yes, finally, I'm getting some chastisement. This is real love. This is real intimacy. This is what I really want.
Is it also his wife is like trying to?
Yeah, she tries to stop. Yeah,
No, don't
yeah,
stop.
yes. Sita Thakurani's on the sidelines. Like, what is going on? And she tries to restrain Mahaprabhu. And she says something like, "Don't beat that old man. Like, he's an old man. Don't beat him." Like, also there's this exchange with Sanatana Goswami, Jagadananda, and Mahaprabhu, where Sanatan is in Puri and he's feeling very lowly, feeling very unfit to be there, and so he decides to go back to Vrindavan, and so he mentions it to Jagadananda Pandit. I'm thinking of going back to Vrindavan. I don't really belong here. What do you think? And Jagadananda tells him, yeah, I think it's a good idea. Vrindavan is like your place, So then Sanatana Goswami, he mentions to Mahaprabhu, yeah, so I'm thinking of going back to Vrindavan, and I mentioned it to Jagadananda, and he also thought it was a good idea. Like, uh-oh. Then Mahaprabhu gets upset. Who is this Jaga? Who is this boy, Jaga? Who is he to advise you? You can be my spiritual master, what to speak of this boy? How can he tell you anything? And then Sanatan, he says something like, oh, you're giving the sweetness of chastisement to Jagadananda, and you're giving the bitterness of honor and respect to me, I'm in a lower position, getting all this formality. And then there's another very sweet incident with Advaita Acharya, where, what is his name? Is it Kamala Kanta? It's a servant of Advaita Acharya, Kamala Kanta Vishwas, is it? Something like that. He's a servant of Advaita Acharya. And Advaita Acharya, he had some debts with the king. And so this servant, Kamala, let's just say his name is Kamala Kanta. I think it's Kamala Kanta. He writes a letter to the king trying to liquidate this debt in some way. But somehow that letter came to the hands of Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu was upset with that letter. Because Advaita Acharya is the Supreme Lord, So how can the very idea that the Supreme Lord has some debt, this has no foundation. This is untenable, So Mahaprabhu gets upset, and he gives some heavy chastisement to Kamalakantan, and he like tells him, I never want to see him never want to see him again. I don't remember if he tells him directly or to someone else, but he gives this instruction, like, he cannot come in front of me. I never want to see him again, to Kamalakanta. And then Advaita Acharya, he hears about that, and he says, why is Kamalakanta getting more mercy than me? Because he had that exchange with Mahaprabhu, where Mahaprabhu came and beat him. But Mahaprabhu didn't tell him, I'll never see you anymore. So therefore, Kamalakanta, he's getting like a heavier punishment. So this is more mercy, this is more intimacy, this is more affection than what I have got, Advaita Acharya, he makes this statement. And of course, everything is harmonized in the end. And then there's also, we're running out of time, but just one sweet little exchange they have where one day Advaita Acharya, he started worshipping Mahaprabhu with some paraphernalia, and then Mahaprabhu took that same paraphernalia and started worshipping Advaita Acharya, and there was this funny mantra that one of them was chanting. Isho, I can't remember it, very funny, but it means whoever you are and whatever you are, I'm worshiping you. I don't know who you are and what you are, but I'm worshiping you. This very like intimate kind of like worship to, worshipful exchange. And then when Mahaprabhu was in Puri, and this was like a turning point in Mahaprabhu's Leela. Mahaprabhu was in this mode of preaching and distribution of the holy name. And then there was this transition when he withdrew from this public preaching mode, and he entered this mood of separation of Srimati Radharani. And so there was this, so like Advaita Acharya also had some part to play in that transition too, because he sent a letter, and maybe he sent it through Jagadananda Pandit, but he sent a letter to Mahaprabhu. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, it's in I think it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj discusses it in Golden Volcano. And it's this very cryptic letter saying, tell whom is mad that he uses the analogy of the selling of rice, and he says like now the market's been flooded already. You remember that the market's already been. Can you remember it exactly?
No, I don't remember the exactly. Just roughly.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, saying like that, like now the market's full, so like the value's gone down. Like if you overload the market with a particular good too much, then it loses value, right? So he's saying like that, like indirectly saying like your job is done now, like you've already spread the holy name far and wide, and now you can withdraw from that duty. And he uses this analogy of rice in the marketplace, and he says it in this very like humorous and sweet way, like tell who is mad. He doesn't use Mahaprabhu's name, and tell who is mad this message, and then he concludes with, and tell him that a madman brings this to his ear, something like this. And so this is delivered to Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu reads that, and then he makes this comment, like, because there are these, and especially we see this in Bengal. I don't know about other parts of India. But they'll sometimes do this special worship. They'll construct a temporary deity, and they'll perform special worship of that deity. Like we'll see this during Kali Puja, the period of Kali Puja in Bengal. They'll construct these temporary deities out of like clay and straw, and during this period of 2 weeks or whatever it is, they'll perform this special worship. And then they put the deities in the river. Like, now their job is finished. So then Mahaprabhu, he makes this like joke, like, oh, I understand, because Advaita Acharya is the one who called him, right? Advaita Acharya is the one who brought him. And so Mahaprabhu makes this joke, like, oh, I understand, Advaita Acharya is like one of these worshippers, who invites a deity, and then when they're finished with their purpose, they dismiss them, like that. So many very, very sweet exchanges, and it's also very, very wonderful to think, like who is Advaita Acharya? We also have to remember that Advaita Acharya is Mahavishnu. Advaita Acharya is the Supreme Lord, but he's worshiping Mahaprabhu. He's also, in this mood of loving service towards Mahaprabhu. So that is very beautiful to see.
It's mentioned also that he's Shiva as well.
That is the vision of Vrindavan Das Thakur. Yeah, Vrindavan Das Thakur has the vision of seeing Advaita Acharya as Sadashiva. But Kaviraj Goswami, he describes him as Mahavishnu. And so, Srila Saraswati Thakur, his approach was, if there's some difference between Chaitanya Bhagavata, these are like the two significant scriptures that we follow about Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Bhagavata and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Srila Saraswati Thakur made some statement like, if there's some discrepancy between the two, then we'll go on the side of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. However, Srila Sridhar Maharaj has also pointed out that Sadashiva and Mahavishnu, they are very close. Their function is very, very close. Sadashiva takes the form of the glance of Mahavishnu, which is impregnating the material energy. So there, from that perspective, there's not so much difference. There's a great closeness there. And also, when we're dealing with the infinite, then everything is possible. And the Lord, He's also like a hypnotist. He's giving different perceptions of Himself. Inspiring different visions of who He is to different devotees in different moods. So all these things are possible. But generally, we'll lean more on the side of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami.
I heard somewhere this analogy of love.
Of what, sorry?
Of love. The saying that Vishnu, he never touches material energy, and that part of him which reciprocates with material energy is Sadashiva. So it's like, it's him, but not like entirely. But just as a glove, because it's like your hand, right? But not
Right.
Yeah, I heard Shiva has his own tattva. He is. Like you have Vishnu tattva, and then Shiva tattva is like its own thing.
Yeah, Shiva Tattva is also closely related to Vishnu Tattva. It is, like his own category. Yeah. It's a special expression of Vishnu Tattva. Something like that, we could say. Yeah. Okay. Well, any last comment or anything from anyone? Happy we can remember something of the glories of Advaita Acharya on this day. And pray for his grace.
So one devotee was in the post saying, Advaita Acharya making beers bona fide since forever.
That's funny. Should we chant Hari Haraya, or we have Arti now, or do we have a pujari here?
Jai Sriyukta Vishakha Devi ki jai.
Jai Shri Advaita Acharya ki jai. Tadiya Avirbhav Mahamahotsavatiti ki jai.